everyone, I'm Jess. I'm the beauty director at Vogue and thrilled for you to join me actually, and I'm joining you too, to day 3 of our 5 Days of Beauty programme, where today we are in partnership with Jo Malone London. I'm very excited because I have 3 incredible fragrance fanatics who are going to be joining me tonight on our panel, and we are going to be talking about a whole host of things, but in and amongst it we'll be talking about the mood boosting power of fragrance, home scenting or scent surround, which is something that obviously has really come into its own in the past year while we've been at home, probably more than ever before. And we're also going to talk about a few incredible initiatives that Jo Malone London are involved in, mainly to do with some charities that support mental health, as well as a very big anniversary for one of their cult products, lime basil and mandarin, which personally I'm obsessed with. And we're also going to talk a little bit about scent pairing. So if you would have seen my IGTV that I did with one of the team members who's joining us tonight, Twiggy, we talked quite extensively about scent pairing. So that's another topic that we'll be diving into. Just a few bits of housekeeping. If you have any burning questions, pun intended, about candle or fragrance, we would love to hear them. So there's a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Type any questions that you have in there and it will come up in our Q&A box. If there's anything that you see that someone else has asked that you would love to know the answer to, just press the thumbs up and it will pop it to the top of the list of questions, so that'll be the first thing that we see, but we'll be answering your questions throughout the evening, so please make sure that you ask them, and for any of the panel. So we would love to interact with you guys and make it as interactive as possible. And finally, we love to see your social. So anything that you've enjoyed about tonight, anything that you've seen, any key takeaways, if you do share them on your social, please be sure to use our handles, which are British Vogue and Jo Malone London, as well as our hashtag, which is 5 Days of Vogue Beauty. So all of the housekeeping out the way, and without further ado, I would love to introduce you to our panel tonight. So first up, we have Twiggy Jalloh, who is my teammate, my right-hand woman. Twiggy, hello, how are you?
Hi, Jess. Hi, everyone.
Gorgeous. Hello, how are you?
I'm feeling good tonight. How are you feeling, Jess?
I'm feeling good. Got my candles burning.
Me too. Got mine burning over here.
Yes, I'm ready. And we also have Emma South joining us, who is the fragrance and lifestyle expert at Jo Malone London. Hi, Emma.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here, and it's one of my favourite topics as well, fragrances and scents at large and how we smell. Like, I just think it's such an interesting phenomenon, so thank you for having us.
Oh no, thank you for joining us. I feel like we're going to be talking a lot, and then it's going to get to the hour, we're going to be like, oh, it's too quick.
Yeah, I can imagine this is going to fly.
And then last but by no means least, we have Pippa Vosper, who may as well be a satellite Vogue beauty team member. We adore you, Pippa, but officially Pippa is a writer, she's a presenter, she's a stylist, all-round fabulous woman. Pippa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and I am part of your family.
Yes, part of the Vogue family. So what I thought we would do, Emma, I thought I would ask you first. Obviously, it's been such an unprecedented year, one that we really couldn't have anticipated, and we've a lot of us have been at home more than ever before. So I suppose for some, it's kind of meant that idea of home scenting has really come into its own. Do you think you could tell us, from your experience at Jo Malone London, what that's kind of meant for you as a brand, and just kind of set the scene of how the past year has been for you guys?
It has been such strange times, but I think in like this last year, like you say, our homes have worked harder than ever for us. They've been like home offices, gyms, classrooms, places to learn new hobbies and interests. I haven't done anything edifying with my time at all, but we've always talked at Jo Malone London about scent adding a different dimension and atmosphere to the home, but more than ever we needed that, almost like the walls expanding when the oppressive sort of cabin fever feelings happened. And so I do think, in terms of adding a dimension, scent works really well, and one of the reasons for that, which you touched on in your IGTV, is because it's just so transporting. I think all of us have experienced that moment where scent takes you to a particular place or person, takes you through time, and in that sense scent has always been very escapist. So we've noticed people enjoying, candles in their home that sometimes maybe scents they didn't previously use in the home, but might remind them of people that they've been missing. or holidays. I also think it's worked in a sort of temporal way, in that you can structure your day slightly. When the days felt very structureless and kind of endless, it's a way to give those almost like subliminal signifiers from day to night and work to play, because we've kind of, like say, worked and have it in our homes for so long. But I think it's been an important way to create these, almost like demarcate our time. And yeah,
that's such a good point, actually, which I hadn't thought of previously, and it's actually something that Twiggy, you touched on in our IGTV, which is this idea that I suppose previously, for me, it was kind of like you get home, you know, the end of a long day at work, you kind of get in the bath, maybe you light a candle, or you like, you know, and it would kind of be that way to sort of wind down at the end of the day. But because you were talking about how you would have one in the day to sort of motivate and uplift, which I thought was quite interesting, because it was just sort of flipping the idea of when we would traditionally use candles maybe on its head. Would you agree?
Definitely. I believe in self-care any hour of the day. I love an evening self-care session, but I've literally had this burning for hours and hours now. It just makes me feel good, especially when you're working in front of a screen. My computer desk is like away from my window, so I don't really get the direct sunlight coming on my face. I guess a candle just almost helps to just rebalance and just make me feel really calm. My room smells really good because I work in my bedroom as well. It would be different if I had an office. I would have a lot of space to move around. Just go get some fresh air.
Pippa, what would you say? You know, how has your kind of at-home scent experience been over the past year or so?
Expensive. Well, what happened
in a
was,
word.
Twiggy said you needed to bring the outside in a little bit, right? So then what I found at home is I didn't start lighting candles until a few months in, actually, and then suddenly I lit one, probably as we usually do, sort of in the evening. And then I had of course, I'm the only one who had the brainwave to do it in the daytime. So I lit it in the daytime, and I actually found that my spirit was lifted, actually. Just by having the scent around was like the open air a little bit, and through the colder months when you weren't having the windows open, you did feel like there was something else with you inside, some freshness. I'm a big fan of like the peony scent, so I often had the fresh floral fragrances of the Jo Malone candles scattered around the house. And I wasn't joking when I say it got expensive, because I was burning them all the time. And then it became sort of like, well, I'm not doing much else, so this is my treat.
Yes.
You know? So when we do much else, it's still going to be my treat. So we're a bit, you know.
And I suppose it's that thing that, you know, Twiggy, you just touched on that idea of like scented self-care, because at a time when, you know, maybe some of those kind of self-care rituals that you might have done previously, for me, it's kind of, you know, maybe getting a massage or having a facial. I was doing all those things at home, and being able to kind of have that candle burning moment would almost elevate that at-home self-care experience.
Oh, definitely. Jess, you see me in the morning, every single morning at 10:15. I've got my eye mask on. I've got my skincare loaded on my face. Sometimes I want to do like a full face of makeup. I'm like, no, like I really, really want to load on the, you know, all the serums and all the hyaluronic acids, everything. And I just put my candle on, get on my meeting, and I just start my day in a really nice way. And I'm just feel calm and just ready. My room smells great. I feel great. And I'm just ready to go. So definitely, I advise everyone to light up a candle during the day. You can put it far away from you on your shelf if you need to, put it anywhere. It honestly just, it's such a small thing, but it does make the biggest difference. Honestly, try it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, sometimes it's those like, you know, tiny acts that can make the biggest difference.
Oh yeah.
And it's quite, I suppose it's quite a timely discussion for us to be having in a way, because this week is actually Mental Health Awareness Week. And Jo Malone London as a brand have, if I'm right, Emma, for well over a decade have been supporting mental health charities. So could you tell us, you know, maybe a little bit about that, why it's so important for you guys as a brand, and again, how it's kind of like really come to the fore over the past year?
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're saying about self-care, because I think we've also seen so many people respond to that way in their own fragrances as well. It's like they realize that they were never wearing it just for other people, because you have that spritz of fragrance or like that candle every day, and it's just for you. And it's so important. And for us as a brand, like our mission has always been to inspire and connect through fragrance. So we knew when we wanted to start our charity initiatives back in 2012 that, as you say, we wanted to focus on the area of mental health and mental well-being. And we also realized that we draw draw so much inspiration from nature for our products. There's not a single item in the collection that isn't informed by the many wondrous moments of nature, let alone the ingredients themselves. So we really found a perfect partnership really with Thrive, which was in 2012, and Thrive work with these beautiful sort of therapeutic horticulture, this gorgeous garden they maintain and keep, called the Old English Garden, and just over Battersea Bridge. And that was our first project. And we then started to realise that the project really was about helping people with their well-being, and really using gardening, as we all know, is sort of intuitively is good for us, but in such a specific way, to help people gain skill sets, feel a sense of belonging, a routine, and gain resilience as well, whilst being surrounded by the goodness of nature, and long-term employment opportunities. So we started to notice that there were other charities across the UK that had similar projects, and of course everyone benefits because these are like green oases within urban areas. So now we have 7 dedicated garden projects, but as you said, we realised that we kind of wanted to do more in terms of evolve our scope around mental health awareness. So now we work not simply with garden charities, but also with NSPCC, Anna Freud Foundation, and Pieta in Ireland. So really giving us an opportunity to sort of think about not just the treatment through therapeutic horticulture, but also awareness and prevention, and really sort of stamping out stigmas as well with the different programs that we've run. So yeah, it's been incredibly important. We've found a really nice synergy, I guess, with it being both centered around the natural world and our mental health.
Yeah, because I don't know about any of you guys, but with everything being closed, I feel like our green spaces just became these kind of, like you say, like havens for escape, and extremely therapeutic in some ways. I've got 2 small kids who'd be like climbing the walls when we weren't able to leave. So being able to be out in green, just like you say, it just gives such a boost. Quite a lovely segue, because can we just talk about the candles that are in front of you, Emma?
Of course,
yeah. I love the packaging. Obviously what's inside is gorgeous. Do you think you could tell us a little bit about those candles?
Absolutely. Yeah, so these are our 4 charity candles, and the sale of any of these, 75% is donated, so basically less VAT, to the it's now 10 charity partners across the UK and Ireland. Across that, within that, there is 11 specific projects that these candles fund. But yeah, they're absolutely stunning. But I think also we've also really enjoyed, it's obviously there's financial support, but we've all as employees helped so much in the gardens, and actually supported the other various charities in certain ways, and that's been really gratifying to do, actually, just from an employee perspective. But yeah, the candles are stunning, and they all have a slightly different inspiration. But I will start with the peony and moss. This one's, I always never forget the tagline for this one, because it's the dainty meets the dirty, and it's got this you were saying you love the peonies, just it's like that kind of really elegant, romantic, ruffled, unfurling peony flower meets the potting shed, and that almost kind of mossy, soily earthiness of the greenery and the potting tools.
I love that. I feel like that sums me up quite nicely, actually. Maybe that should
They're both.
The dainty meets the dirty. Perfect. So we have Lily of the Valley and Ivy, which is really verdant, and this one actually was a fragrance from a while ago in one of our Brit collections that was celebrating different historical epochs, and this one really described the sort of 1800s and these amazing sort of Georgian manor houses overrun with ivy, and it's this very verdant kind of lush scent with hints of cassis and that dewiness really of Lily of the Valley. And then we have the white lilac and rhubarb, which is phenomenally kind of like tart and tangy and zesty. If you love like rhubarb, it's a must. And the kind of powdery headiness of lilac, which I know is in bloom at the moment. It's amazing how across this year I think you become so much more attentive on the walks and things to what's in people's gardens. And
like the cherry blossoms are blooming, like you're completely in touch with everything that's going on around you, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been such a nosy neighbour on people's front gardens as well, like what's coming into bloom. Sometimes I think I must look really weird just standing and smelling. So, but yeah, and then there's the Iris and Ladymore, which is actually my personal favourite. But this one's
my favourite too.
Is it? Yeah. Oh, that's the one lit. It's gorgeous, so powdery and poised, and it's obviously majestic. Iris, standing very tall and statuesque with those kind of washed of indigo colours. So yeah. So
Well, I suppose it's quite something that we've kind of touched on, but I would like to talk a little bit more about is this idea of fragrance associated memories. So obviously we were kind of talking about scents that might remind us of traveling or certain events, people, places. I would love to ask you guys if any sort of memories come to mind when you think of a specific type of scent. Maybe Pippa, let's start with you.
Well, it's funny actually, because seven years ago, in March, I married my wonderful husband, and we had our wedding scented with Red Roses by Jo Malone London.
gorgeous.
Actually, so I still buy that scent.
Discerning choice, Pips.
Oh, it's just the classic, like floral, fragrant, soft, elegant one from the collection. And I still buy this one because, you know, when it runs out, I'll start again, and occasionally we burn it. It's quite it's a very strong floral scent going through the house, so you don't need to burn it for long actually. But yeah, so this one reminds me of my wedding. And then to travel, a little trick that I always have is I take a little mini Jo Malone London candle with me, pack it in my bag on my case, and then when I get to the hotel room, I always light it. So then I've got my scent in a new space, because I'm not in any way homesick or worried about traveling, but there is that comfort level when you reach somewhere new and you are out of place for a moment and you get accustomed, and you've got your scent that actually just calms you and allows you to feel a bit more at home.
That's gorgeous. It's like your anchor, isn't it?
I just think that's such a good tip, because I will always travel with my favorite fragrance, but I've never really, I mean, gosh, the idea of actually traveling again is enough to make me want to cry. Holiday. So I feel like when it does come to going away, I'm taking the candle, I'm taking the perfume, I'm taking the bath, or like I'm taking it all. But I love the idea of just popping a little candle in with you and just bringing a little bit of home away.
Yeah, we've always called them the travel candles, and even working for the brand, I always thought that was really extravagant, and I love the fact that now I know someone does travel with them. I was just thought, oh, they're scatter candles, but now I'm going to do it.
It is really lovely to see it on the side, and it just, you know, a really nice calming scent to have with you as you go along.
That's a lovely idea.
Well, I also have a wedding related story. So I'm 8 years ago, also in March, Pippa, but we had orange blossom from Jo Malone London at our wedding. And so again, it's that thing of I actually don't burn it that often, but around the time, like I'm a bit of some soppy romantic, but around the time of like our anniversary, I like to light it, and smelling it brings it back.
It does.
That the memories and all of that. So I try to not actually light that particular candle too often, because I don't want to get too used to the smell. I love the idea of it taking me back to our wedding every time. And actually for one of our anniversaries, my husband, you know, some of the Jo Malone London candles have the silver lid. We had it engraved with our wedding anniversary date. Anyway, it's got a very, very special place in my heart. Emma, what about you? Do you have any sort of particular memory evoked by fragrance?
I will also share my wedding one. I think that's lovely that you almost like conserve it for those special occasions, because I do have this fear of like diluting like you say, sort of the memory attachment. Especially I was wondering about it with this last year, with it having been such a roller coaster for everyone. You know, I wonder whether there will be certain scents that will kind of become attached to that in both a positive and a negative way, with the ups and downs of lockdown. So I do think it's wise to kind of, if you've got something you know is like say an anchor or a time capsule of a time. For me it was vintage gardenia, and that was the scent I wore. I actually did have orange blossom candles as well. I love it so much. I could never be that disciplined, and I use it all the time in the home. But yeah, I vintage gardenia I am very sort of possessive over, and literally just go and smell it.
Now we have to find Twiggy her future scent.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I was about to say, everyone's got a Jo Malone candle at their wedding.
Twiggy, what do you
have to choose mine? I'm gonna have to choose. Oh my gosh, I feel left out, guys. This isn't fair. This isn't fair.
This is so exciting. Have you got a date, Twiggy?
Do you know what? I don't have a date yet. Neither do I have a ring yet, but I do have my amazing partner, and I think they're watching this right now. So just letting you know, right?
I love that.
Just letting you know,
We're
yeah.
the candles, so at least that's one thing that's falling into place. So that's perfect.
Yeah, we'll do the scent consultation anyway. Let's get that done. That's brilliant.
Thank you very much, Emma.
I love it.
Twigs, do you have? So we don't have your wedding one yet. It's coming. But do you have any sort of memories that kind of really have a powerful fragrance association?
Do you know what, Jess? We spoke about this on our IGTV, and I spoke about a scent reminding me of Sierra Leone. And as we were about to come on live today, I was just sitting there, just having a smell of the wood sage and sea salt. And as I was having a sniff, it almost just took me back to, so every year when I was younger, we used to go to the beach. So it would be almost every Sierra Leonean in London. We would go to a different beach. We go to Margate, we go to Broadstairs, we go to different beaches every year, and we play music, eat food. It was insane. Like, we had the best time ever, and some of my best childhood memories were at those beaches. And it took me back there. I guess it's a seesaw, and the countryside, and just being away from the city and London. It just kind of brought me back there, and it's just a really fond memory. So that one's quite a new memory for me. I haven't really thought of that time for a while. So so it is quite nice that scent took me back there, even just for a moment.
But I suppose it is quite amazing, this kind of like olfactive brain response that we have that triggers all of the things in our mind, and you cannot have had a memory of something for a really long time, and just the tiniest sniff of something can bring you back. And honestly, Emma, do you have any kind of like experience of that at Jo Malone as a brand, and how they can tap into that and help us evoke those memories?
Well, I think with most of the scents, they sort of, because Celine Roux, who's our global head of fragrance development, she works so much from her sort of own personal experiences, and they are the moments that we've all relate to, like the seaside one. I think that was wonderful, Twiggy, and it's exactly what was her inspiration. It's kind of that blustery day on the coast when you can almost taste the sea salt, and you can feel the spray in the air. They capture these moments in, like, say, in nature, that then and they're always followed so faithfully. I love the way that she and the team really, the master perfumers that she appoints, always kind of are very experiential in their approach to creating the scent. They go and relive every moment, and whatever that is, whether it's in all weathers as well. I know that particularly for the wood sage and sea salt one, but it really shines through in the scent. I think it means it lends itself to be very authentic and relatable for us all. And I think, it definitely is one of our kind of our key points behind the fragrances, I guess.
And I think also the idea is that each fragrance, as it's built, it's sort of representing somewhere or something different. So the idea is you have this kind of wardrobe or collection of fragrances to tap into at any given time. And so I also would love to talk about this idea of scent pairing. And actually, I'm sort of keeping my eye on the questions that are coming in. And a couple of the people that are asking is, what are the best scents in the collection that you can pair together? I personally have a few personal favorites, which we can get in, but like Emma, what's the most sort of popular scent pairing? Because I think the beauty of it is the possibilities are limitless. There's so many different ways that you can layer and pair, but what are the most popular?
But I do think you're right. It's about the limitless possibilities and finding something that then is really bespoke to you, and having fun with it. And there really are no rules, because the scents themselves are so simple. They never sort of clash and compete with one another. But it tends to be the way that, obviously, with our iconic scents like lime, basil and mandarin, will always feature lime, basil and mandarin. I think this is one of yours, isn't it? The lime, basil and mandarin with the wood sage and sea salt is amazing. And it really does, that one does particularly well. And the scents such as the peony and blush suede with English pear and freesia, again, that people who tend to love like a floral scent tend to respond really well to both of those. So amazing.
Found that, viewer. But that was going to be my other one that I suggested. We definitely didn't plan it, but it's such a good pairing.
But yeah, and I think that it sort of is nice when people are sort of are starting out with scent pairings, maybe think about the family of fragrance that they like, and they can kind of try scents from within that range. But then it is more fun to kind of be quite contrasting as well, and pull scents. Like I love Twiggy's one with the lime basil mandarin with the myrrh and tonka, and having that kind of contrast. I love actually myrrh and tonka with the wood sage and sea salt as well, because I think the myrrh and tonka has those amazing kind of like vanilla oaky caramel tones, and then you add the sea salt and it's just incredible. It's really really addictive. So it's about having fun,
that people could smell exactly what we're talking about as we're talking about it on maybe that's the next thing for Zoom. They need to do some sort of smell-o-vision. But Emma, like personally, what scent pairings do you go to?
So I love, pomegranate noir is probably one of my all-time favorites. So I love to either kind of make that a little bit more playful and fun in the summer months with things like nectar and blossom and honey, or the English pear and freesia. But then I like to add, like, for instance, I find for winter I prefer to go a lot deeper, and things like oud and bergamot layered with it. I do love jasmines and orange blossoms as well, which is why I love the vintage gardenia. So sometimes just our whole sort of abundance of white florals like orange blossom and jasmine sambac together, I think is amazing. Or tuberose angelica as well, that sort of heady balmy summer night air, you kind of feel the blossoms on the breeze. But yeah, it'd be summer wise.
Twiggy, I know in the IGTV you did talk about your scent pairing. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it for those who might not have seen the IGTV?
Okay, so everyone, lime basil and mandarin, myrrh and tonka together, perfect combo. And you know what, the reason why I actually really like this pairing is because there was a fragrance I absolutely loved years and years and years ago, and they discontinued it, which is very, very annoying. It is so annoying when that happens. Anyway, I'm past it now. So that particular fragrance had both lime in there and it had tonka in there as well. And lo and behold, my favorite combination are these two. Yeah, they just go so well together. I was telling Jess before that, the sweetness of the tonka, the richness of the lime, it's just got so much body to it, but then at the same time it's quite sweet but sensual. And then of course you have the lime basil mandarin, which is super fresh and just clean. Both of them together just work so well. And sometimes if I am feeling very generous that day, I might just spritz, go underneath. Just spritz, go underneath and really, really enjoy it. But yeah, these two are just really good combination. I would advise you to try it. Yeah,
I love that you've been able to recreate something that you previously loved through the ingredients. That's amazing. That's amazing.
I had no choice.
You have to take matters into your own hands. You're like, right, I'm going to recreate it myself. Pippa, what kind of fragrances do you love? You like florals, citruses? What's your vibe?
Well, I'm like Twiggy. We are like pairing with our fragrances here. It's the wood sage and sea salt that I absolutely love on any occasion, day, night. And it's so funny, over the past year of not being out, actually fragrance went up in my life and makeup went down in my life, which I am a makeup person. And I sort of like, I'm not worried to go out without makeup, but I do like to have a little bit of something on. And as we went on with our lockdown, my makeup got less and less and less, until a point where I was wearing just like a tinted oil and then a slap of mascara or whatever. But I found that I felt complete if I had my fragrance on, which was so interesting to me, is that my sort of like, not a suit of armor, but those who are used to wearing makeup, it's quite odd if you go out without it. But as I went down and down and down and just had the oil, I had to have my fragrance on rather than my mascara and blusher and foundation, which I found really interesting. And I don't think I will actually go back to a full face after this either, because I quite like the dewiness and just a slap of something else. But to have my fragrance, that was the point that I felt a bit more confident. Like, okay, I can leave the house now. I'm dressed and spritzed. So I found that quite an interesting development within the past year of lockdown. Is that the makeup was less, but the fragrance was actually an everyday, even if I was just going to the park with the children or cycling or, so it became a fragrance journey.
I was almost the complete opposite. So to begin with, when we first went into lockdown, it was almost like well, I'm not leaving the house, so why do I need fragrance? I'm not seeing anyone. And for me, it's so much about the sort of interaction that you get when you wear fragrance that I love. But then very quickly, I was like, okay, I just really miss my perfume, and actually made me realize that it is more for myself than anyone else. So then I'd be dousing, but I kind of, I shifted, I went more towards the cologne side. So with my just pure lime, basil and mandarin during the height of lockdown. And then as we've come out, like you're saying, Emma, these kind of more heady florals, like the peony and blush suede, like those kind of my sort of my coming out fragrances, I suppose, because now we're going to be out and seeing people. I've kind of shifted how I want to wear my perfumes. Have you felt the same, Emma? Or what was your sort of?
It's just for you, and that's why I think that element of self-care again as well. So I mean, I must admit, I am one of those people that's quite, I say, I'm obsessed with fragrance, and I go and smell everything, and then sometimes I get so incapacitated with what to wear and fragrance scent pairing that I end up not wearing anything at all, or I've got everything on. So it's definitely one of the but I do agree with Wood Sage and Sea Salt has been, I think that's a scent that I couldn't imagine ever becoming tainted by this sort of past year in a negative way, because I find it so serene and so sort of expansive. It really does like conjure up, you say, the open shoreline, and I find it's such an amazing everyday scent, but that tends to be my sort of go-to. But you're right, I think now that we're able to do a bit more, I want something that's almost quite celebratory. I'm really enjoying the marmalade.
Yeah, I want a bit of a showstopper, you know,
just
like, I've arrived, I'm in a restaurant or I'm at a party.
Exactly. I mean, I'm obsessed at the moment with the tangy rhubarb and the orange peel from the marmalade collection. So I've been wearing.
The marmalade collection is lovely, and I love
the marmalade collection.
So gorgeous.
Oh wow, I love those there.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
I love the packaging of it. It's such a departure, and I was really surprised when I saw it. These little sort of very sort of not homely, but very, as you know, garden and fresh, and just the look of these packaging.
Yeah, there's like little ceramic pots of joy. There's an elderflower one that I absolutely love, which is incredible. But I'm very conscious that the questions are racking up. So I've got one final question to the panel before we dive into everyone's brilliant questions. If you had to choose one Jo Malone London fragrance for the rest of time, I'll maybe allow you one for candle and one for perfume. What would it be?
Ooh.
Twiggy, you can go first.
Oh gosh, Jess, you put me on the spot. Okay, so I think it would have to be candle-wise, the wood sage and sea salt, just because, like I said, it just reminds me of the beach, and I would prefer that scent to be almost scattered around the room and to be spread around the room. So that candle, fragrance, I would say, now that we are, about to go out, the clubs might open, the bars might open. I'm definitely going to go for the Marron Tonka.
Yes.
Like I said, it gives me the sweetness, it gives me the headiness at the same time. I feel quite sexy and sensual when I wear it. So yeah, it's going to have to be those two. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Pippa, what about you?
I do love Pomegranate Noir. It is just
a candle or perfume?
Perfume, a light scent, a light spritz for the day, and then heavier at night. I just love how it reacts on my skin. And I think for me with the candle, it's peony and moss.
Oh,
because I just love that freshness, but earthiness of it. I think it's beautiful. And I don't have a garden, and all I want in life is a garden. So if anything can take me there, I'm just super, super happy. I think maybe we need to move so I can have my dream garden and just potter in the weekends. But
oh, love that. And Emma, what about you? I know it's probably particularly hard for you, given that you're with these fragrances all day.
But I want to say vintage gardenia because it's my wedding scent, but then I'm like, well, I don't wear it every day because of the reasons we discussed. So I actually think Pomegranate Noir, I'm going to say the same, but I do it as the candle, because although Wood Sage and Sea Salt isn't my favourite fragrance to wear, it's the one that I can reliably go to in any mood. And so I think that would be my fragrance, the Wood Sage and Sea Salt and the Pomegranate Noir and the candle. Yeah,
very decisive. I'm very impressed.
I've been thinking, and I was like, okay, it'd be a heartbreaking decision though. I think it'd be I'm
gonna dive into the question. So some actually sort of riffing off of that, what scents do you suggest, Emma, I think this will be good for you, what scents do you suggest to evoke a calming mood?
I can answer it with a couple of fragrances, but I do think it comes down to that subjectivity of fragrance. And it's a really interesting dynamic, because often we look at the areas like of aromatherapy and what's recommended as calming, and there are things that are universally sort of restful, serene, soporific even, such as lavender. But equally, we look at our sort of own personal attachments to different scents, and they can be so vast and varied that if something is known as being calming, but you had a teacher that you couldn't stand that always wore lavender, it's always going to be like irksome or repulsive to you. So I guess it's it's a fine balance, but lavender typically is one of those scents. We have an amazing linen spray actually called Lino Novento, which has got lavender and rosemary, obviously quite closely linked, and peppermint, and it's so restful, calming. I think it's beautiful, and lilac lavender in the Townhouse collection as well. But yeah, I think the other scents that tend to be quite calming and comforting are vanilla type style fragrances as well. So anything with tonka in, like the myrrh and tonka, or mimosa and cardamom has got beautiful tonka note in it, and I do find those are kind of comforting, calming scents.
A question too. Sorry for all the people asking questions. I just like to know. Hyacinth is a scent I find super calming. Which scent in the Jo Malone London collection has hyacinth in it?
Oh my goodness, do you know what, that's a really hard one to actually because there isn't at this moment in time, but there was a scent. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember, one of the Brit collections had hyacinth in it. Oh, and it was so accurate. It was like, because I find hyacinths quite like heady but green as well, I would say. Have you tried the basil and neroli?
Oh,
yes, I have.
That is one of my all-time favorites. That's actually on my desk at Vogue House, which I have not been to for a really long time. But that's my work fragrance, actually. Just lifts me. I love it. Such a good one. Pippa, I think you'd like it.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of got that headiness of hyacinth, but also the greenery, because neroli is the kind of the early shoots of orange blossom, the earliest buds and blooms, and it has that kind of sap and verdancy to it. So yeah, I'd try that.
So someone is also asking, what fragrance would you recommend for a warm summer holiday? I think everyone's dreaming of holidays. So what can our fragrance purchases be when we're at the airport?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, for me, there's one in the collection, the fig one, which really reminds me of, being on some like wonderful Greek island. It's balmy, it's a little bit humid, it's very green. Like, for me, that's an incredible sort of summer fragrance from Jo Malone London.
Is that the fig and lotus flower, or is it the
fig and
gorgeous
lotus flower? Yeah.
Beautiful, and it almost has that like hint of milkiness of the sap of fig as being snapped off the tree, doesn't it? No, that's a really good shout actually, because I always go with the sort of the heady florals and, like you say, the kind of summer night air. But actually, that's a really good shout.
Yeah, something about the sort of greenness that takes you to holiday immediately, and it's this, like you said about the creaminess, it almost reminds me of suntan lotion.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, that's so true.
yeah. So I would recommend that one. I don't know if any of the rest of the panel have any nice holiday fragrances to recommend.
I'm gonna get really boring now and say once again, myrrh and tonka.
It's your favorite though.
It's just my favorite. Like I do love, like, like I said, lime basil mandarin, but this one has to be my favorite. And it reminds me of Sierra Leone, like going back home for the first time like 2 years back, and it was just great being on the beach and like just eating and having fun with my family and friends and walking around. The air was really balmy and warm. Yeah, it reminds me of that. So I will definitely be wearing this a lot this summer. So yeah, that would be my summer fragrance. Yeah.
Well, I feel like also this is quite a good segue into another question that a lot of people want to know the answer to, because obviously, Twigs, I think we're getting the sense that this is your signature scent. One of the questions is, how can we best find our signature scent? Because I think that's actually quite a good question, because sometimes there's so many different ones available. How do we get that how do we narrow down our choices? What kind of things do you do in your consultations, Emma, that can kind of help people find their signature scents?
It's a really good question, and I think that's what I love about scent pairing, is almost that you don't have to have that one scent that you're stuck to, but you can have it, and you can have that continuation, that sort of thread of identity, but you can also add scents into it to elevate it for different occasions, or change it, just accentuate different notes within it, because otherwise I think it's quite hard. It's lovely for everyone else because they recognize you by that fragrance, but then you have that same scent, but then again, it's nice to have, like, say, one theme. Find the scent that makes you feel most comfortable and most happy, because that's when you're going to feel always the most relaxed, the most confident. And I think that, you know, that's wonderful about the Myrrh and Tonka, and that's the same how probably why I chose the wood sage and sea salt, in that sense, even though it doesn't typically, it's not the scent that I always think as being my favorite, but it's the one I go to over and over. And I think that's probably what you've got to ask yourself. And I think now, coming out of this and asking yourself, like, what scent would you wear just for you, you know, not for anyone else, would be a really good one, because like you say, it's we've been wearing fragrance now not for anyone else. No one else can smell it on the Zoom calls. It's just for us. So,
and also just what makes you feel good, because it kind of going back to everything that we've been saying about this kind of power of fragrance to elevate and motivate and inspire in a way at a time when it's been quite difficult. I feel like when you're finding a signature scent, it kind of finds you, and maybe you might not expect it, and you might smell someone else wearing something, and I'm that kind of person, like I'll just go up to someone and be like, what are you wearing? I think other people might be like, what dress are you wearing? Or I will like follow people in the street to ask them what perfume they're wearing.
I think it's the ultimate compliment though, isn't it? I think when someone asks you, that's like, completely.
So I think maybe the advice is just experiment with what you like, but if there's something that particularly jumps out in like a particular family, like a citrus, or like you're saying, creamy vanillas or heady florals, and then experimenting within those categories, your scent will find you.
Definitely. And let it, obviously, you know, but settle on the skin, and see how comfortable you feel with it at the end. Love it through every moment of its kind of wear, basically, as well.
I suppose, and actually, like, not necessarily rushing into a purchase, right? Because like you say, you kind of can spritz something, and what you experience in the top notes to begin with can be very different to what it settles into the skin as. So it's nice to just let time develop, and that your relationship with a fragrance will develop over that time as well.
Absolutely. I remember thinking I could not understand, and now it's, like, say, one of my absolute favorites, but I couldn't understand why pomegranate noir was one of our iconic scents when I first started, because I was continuously misting it for people and smelling that kind of first impression, and then I smelt someone on it wearing it on the tube, and I recognized what it was, but it smelled so different than having worn it, and it was that dry down that I now love.
Someone has said, due to the beastly condition that is hay fever, he's very sensitive to anything that is heavily perfumed or heavily scented. When exposed, it can trigger sneezing, watery eyes, congestion. It's very frustrating. Do you have any recommendations for fragrances that might be lighter for people who are more sensitive? It's a great question. A lot of people have upvoted it.
We classify our fragrances into the families, as we mentioned, sort of citrus, fruity, light floral, and that we class as being kind of the brighter, fresher side of the arc. So you can stick to that. But equally, wood sage and sea salt, we technically class as a warmer scent. However, I think it is so clean and uplifting. But I'd also think about the way you wear the fragrance. I think someone who's particularly sensitive to hay fever, it's the kind of particulate in the air. And I think if you wear a scent as a body creme, even if it's a lot of a heavier fragrance, it's sort of gently emanating throughout the day, and it's not as irritating and as volatile in the air. So I'd really recommend trying wearing a body creme. And I find it just as satisfying wearing a fragrance as a cream sometimes. I think it adds so much longevity to the scent, and it's that kind of fragrance where that moment in the shower at the end of the day, you can smell it all being kind of warmed up again, and you know it's lasted. So that would be my advice on that one.
You know, taking it like one step further back, like using a bath oil, for example.
Absolutely.
Up your fragrance that way, so you can do the bath oil and then the cream. That's quite a good way of sort of embedding scent on your skin. Great question. I'm loving the technicalities of these questions, so I'm just going to keep going through it. Emma, another question for you. How do we stop open perfumes losing their original scent? So Tracy, who's asking this question, she said that she rotates through fragrances quite a lot, which I am also very guilty of. Not guilty, but something that I do also. How do we preserve them? How do we keep them? How do we store them? What's the best way to ensure longevity with our fragrances?
Yeah, in terms of sort of the shelf life of the fragrance, we sort of, I think on the bottle it's 24 months, but I have got scents that have been in my cabinet for years and are absolutely fine. But it is a case of keeping them away from direct sunlight. So I'd suggest that, you know, coolest, darkest place possible. Yeah, sort of concealed. But I mean, they are such beautiful sort of dressing table pieces. So if it's your favorite that you know you get through, have it out. But I think otherwise keep it in a drawer and a cupboard, and you definitely notice the difference.
Another one that's coming up quite a lot, and again, sorry to put you on the spot, Emma, with all these questions, but I'm loving the specificity of it. Do Jo Malone London sell tester samples so that you can try different scents before you commit to buying the full size?
Yes, actually, that's a really good question, because it's something we've quite recently introduced as well, which is a little miniature townhouse collection of vials. So we previously have done cologne collections where it's a 9ml, 5 9mls, and we do one for the classic collection and for the cologne intense. I'm just really panicking as I'm saying this, that this was a limited edition last year and not full time, so I'm going to go and double check. But I remember when we launched it, I hope it was permanent, because it was just brilliant. Little tiny vials, 1.5ml, but 5 of our sort of icons. It was the five biggest selling fragrances, and quite a good spectrum of scent within that as well, to get an idea as well, to sort of fine tune it. So,
yeah, and I suppose, you know, one of the beauties of everything opening up again is that we can go into store, we can go to counter, we can experience fragrances again, which I know is one of the things about going into a nice department store and having that scent come in is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, this is a nice question, because obviously we've talked quite a lot about wedding scent. What would you suggest is a good wedding scent that subtly scents the room but won't overpower? I think what you were saying, Pippa, about red roses.
Red roses.
Yeah.
Divine. And nobody walked in the room, and well, not that I know of, and felt, you know, it was overpowering in any way. And also it was just so subtle that I felt, in a non-slushy way, it really sort of brought the room together.
That
Sounds, you know, strange maybe, but it was just beautiful. And then we had red roses at the event, the party later, 2 days later, and it all, you know, the people that were at our quite small wedding just all mentioned that they felt back in, you know, we got married at Chelsea Registry Office. They just said, oh, we really feel like we got the scent of your wedding here. And it was just beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah. So I would highly recommend red roses, because it, you know, nobody's going to be sort of, oh, that's not for me. It really was just a very universal, beautiful floral scent that wasn't too sort of, it wasn't too twee and floral. It's just very, very, very elegant and beautiful and subtle. So I would definitely say that.
I don't think it's slushy at all about bringing
I think it's great.
It's just like music, isn't it? It instantly connects people.
Because I was just thinking, like a 10-year anniversary dinner in for the 40 that came to our Chelsea Registry Office wedding, we could do the red roses again.
Oh, amazing.
And I remember, because you can do the, you know, fragrance consultations in store, and I remember doing a wedding one at the store on Brook Street at the time, and one of the things they recommended, which was quite good, because at the time we were kind of looking at different venues, not all venues you can burn candles, and they just recommended spritzing the room sprays on the table linen. So you know, it's not like very subtly scenting a space. You can't have candles, but even if you can, it kind of adds to the layering of a room scent. And I quite like to do that with my bed linens as well.
That's a lovely idea.
Another lovely question, actually, kind of relating to the topic of tonight's panel. Which fragrance would the panel recommend for low mood? So if you want something to kind of lift you, what would you recommend, Emma?
It's similar to the calming fragrance. It's going to be very subjective for everyone, but we do know that citrus scents are typically bright and zesty and have that kind of invigoration and uplifting, which makes them great scents for sort of to work to as well, because they kind of aid concentration and giving you that boost. But they also are quite joyous. They're full of the zest of life, literally. So lime, basil, mandarin, grapefruit, the basil and neroli, and even the Earl Grey and cucumber amber, we class that as a citrus, and it's a little bit warmer for someone who doesn't want a really bright, energetic citrus scent. It has a kind of a little bit more of that kind of smokiness of the tea in it. But yeah, those would be my go-to for uplifting the mood.
And I also say on that, when I feel down, I actually take a bath and I have nectarine blossom and honey oil. And that really lifts my mood.
Being subjective, like you're doing what makes you feel.
Yeah, I suppose there is a subjectivity to it, isn't there? Because what lifts one might sort of calm and relax another. So I think it's like leaning into what you know will elevate your mood at that particular time.
Neroli has the best effect on my mood. Neroli has the best effect on my mood. So I would definitely advise you to try out the basil neroli, is it, Emma?
Yeah,
the basil neroli. It's always had, like, years and years and years back, I used to have a rollerball where I used to get a bit of a neroli oil, a little bit of lavender, get that in there, a little bit of grapefruit as well behind my ears and on my temples, and it honestly just helps to lift my mood just a little bit. So yeah, I would say that one.
Gorgeous.
Okay, so we've got time for a few more questions. They keep coming in as quickly as I'm asking them, and I want to be sure we can get through as many as we can. Actually, a really nice question. How can we understand our scent? Because I think we're kind of in the industry, so I just very naturally will talk about top notes and base notes. And so how can people understand the composition of fragrances to know what they will enjoy?
It is one of those things you say, we sort of say quite glibly, and I think actually it'd be like someone talking about wine in wine language and I wouldn't understand. But it's the top, heart and base. The best way to think about it is actually and the way that's most meaningful to us as wearing it is the journey of the fragrance over time. So it is that moment from the first mist through to sort of the dry down, or the sort of trail that you experience the next day, and you can even sort of smell on your clothes. The top notes are typically those notes that are very apparent within the first 15 minutes. And it's not that they disappear, but they just become less prominent, and it's all down to the molecular weight of the different ingredients. And interestingly enough, actually, you know, the things that have a lighter molecular structure and are sort of typically more volatile are the things that evaporate first off our skin, and they do tend to be the citrus notes that we describe as being quite light and bright. But as you move into sort of things like heavier fruits, so you think more kind of stone fruits, richer fruits, and florals, it becomes sort of more voluptuous, and the language sort of has a parity with how they are on a kind of, you know, say molecular level, and they take longer to evaporate. The base notes usually are composed of woods, resins, and the sort of the spices, and those are the notes that are very long lasting and kind of anchor a scent, and musks as well. So
and that's kind of what stays with you throughout the day, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that kind of helps to explain it. But I think, you know, if you know that you love florals, looking at maybe a fragrance that's got florals at the heart of it, you know, it's going to sort of keep that floral moment going as the day progresses.
Absolutely.
But again, you know, that's what the Jo Malone London experts are for on counter and online, so you can kind of ask all of the questions, the really specific prescriptive questions there. I think is the best way to do it. Pippa, someone's asking where your top or dress is from, which was the first question that I asked you when you came on the screen.
Excuse my terrible French accent. Suzanne, Sezane, basically. And it's actually Suzanne for Jo Malone London. No, I'm joking.
That really would be perfect. That would be excellent.
Well, there's a collaboration idea.
Yeah.
I feel like I had to ask it because a couple of people had upvoted it, so I've just always the trendsetter is Pippa. And then maybe another one, you know, I know we've talked about summer fragrances, we've talked about you know, if you're feeling low, things to uplift. Someone's asked what would we recommend, so maybe each of the panel can recommend for everyday use. So maybe if it's not a specific one, just the types of fragrances that you might personally wear every day that you would recommend to other people as well. Twiggy, let's start with you. Are you gonna? I know what you're gonna say.
I'm not gonna say, guys. I'm not gonna say Maroon Tonka. But I will say I've started to use the Peony and Blush suede cologne a lot more now, just because it's light, it's sweet. If you don't want something that is very strong, myrrh and tonka, I would say for me is more of an evening fragrance. Even though I do like to spray it during the day, the myrrh can be quite, it has a lot of body to it. So this one here is just great if you just want to spritz. I wear perfume to the shops anyway, so when I'm going to Sainsbury's, I'm like, I want to smell good. So yeah, I would say this one's a good one to go for. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And Pippa, what about you?
It's actually English pear and freesia. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I need to be out in the garden, if you like, through the last year of being in the home so much. And I just found the English pear and freesia was a real escapism fragrance for me, and a real like little zingy boost.
Yeah.
So that it might change when we all are out again, and you know, but right now, as we're coming out of this and we need that little lift, it is the English pear and freesia.
It's actually the scent that my sister wears every single day without fail. So it reminds me so much of her. And at the time when we weren't seeing each other, like I would wear that. And it's one of those ones, I feel like if you are looking for an everyday fragrance that will stay with you the whole day, it's one of those ones like you just can't go wrong. So someone has asked about burning candles and how to get an even burn and to stop it funneling. I feel like one of the things that I once learned is that you should always burn a candle so that the top layer gets completely liquid. And that's how you're going to continue to get an even burn the whole way through. So that was just one tip that I...
But how do you keep it on that level? Because I have so many that I'm sort of like, oh no, I've lost half the use of the candle because the wick has gone down.
So, but if you burn a candle,
yeah,
you allow it to have the burn time so the entire top surface becomes liquid, then it will burn evenly the whole way.
Right.
You always have to trim the wick. That was one.
I never trim my wick. I never, ever trim my wick.
Yes, always. And I've got a little wick trimmer.
I need to be more like you, Jess.
I take my candle burning very seriously.
No wonder it's been so expensive for me in lockdown. I'm like, okay, new candle. I don't know if you know this, Jess. You might know this, Twiggy and Jess. What do you do with the wax that's in the bottom of the candle if you've not done the solid straight burn?
Oh, this is literally one of my favourite things to do. So I in my bathroom cabinet, I've got all different sizes of candles, like small, big, large, where I keep like my cotton buds, or I keep my makeup brushes, or my cotton pads.
Oh yeah.
So I always will reuse a jar of the candle.
Yeah.
But the best thing to do is to burn it all the way down, pour boiling water inside, and then the wax will rise to the top, and then you almost just have to scrape off the top, let it all cool down.
Okay,
scrape
now
off the top layer, pour the water away, and you just have to flick the sort of the metallic part of the wick with
I saw it on TikTok. I saw it on TikTok. Someone did it. I was like, oh my gosh, that is genius.
I'm too old for TikTok. I just saw it somewhere else.
I've never even seen it.
It's the best way to sort of, it's, you know, slightly more sustainable because you're getting reuse of your candle jar, but also it just looks so gorgeous in the bathroom.
It does look quite chic with the
Jo Malone London ones are the best, aren't they, for cotton buds?
Yeah, you just put your little cotton buds in, or put my makeup brushes. But I feel like Emma was trying to join us.
Sorry about that. Emma, are you back?
Yes. Hi, Emma.
Sorry,
just talking about how we love to like reuse our candle jars. I was just describing how we do that. But you've made it just back in time for us to be able to say goodbye and sign off, because we're at time. I feel like we've got so many brilliant questions that we've hopefully answered, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who joined us. Thank you to my incredible panelists for joining us. Emma, I'm so pleased you made it back so that we could say goodbye.
Thank you for having me, honestly.
All have. I've just loved talking about fragrance with you guys, and I feel like our audience are also as equally obsessed with fragrances as we are, because they've been very, very technical, brilliant questions tonight. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Jo Malone London, for being our dream partner. We hope that you will join us for the rest of our 5 days of beauty. We still have another 2 days to go, so please do join us. And thank you again for watching this evening. Have a lovely rest of the night.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.